Thank you very much, Alice. And as I say, we'll be speaking to an expert on that new device in a few minutes' time. Now, if you have nothing to hide, why worry about CCTV? Utter the words security camera here in Britain and you'll find almost everyone has an opinion. They're either the encroaching spread of Orwellian dystopia or an effective tool that keeps the streets safe. That is because we probably have more of them than any other country, up to 6 million. That's almost 1 for every 10 people. So, new guidelines are being introduced to regulate them a little better. But do we need CCTV at all? Well, with me is the academic criminologist Nick Groombridge from St Mary's University in London. Alongside him, Tom Reeve, editor of CCTV Image and a journalist with more than 18 years' experience in the CCTV industry. And on my left, Emma Carr, deputy director of Big Brother Watch, a campaign group set up to protect and defend civil liberties. And Emma, let's just start with you. Is there any evidence to suggest that this huge number of CCTV cameras actually prevents crime?
No. And none that I've been presented with anyway. So Big Brother Watch sets out to have a little bit more transparency about the debate around CCTV cameras. So we ask people like local authorities and schools about how many CCTV cameras they're actually using. And then we try to have a policy debate about whether they're actually needed and how effective they actually are.
Nick?
Very mixed. It prevents some crimes, detects others, but mostly misses out on particularly important crimes like domestic violence, cybercrime, corporate crime.
Tom?
It's not the panacea to solve all crimes, but it is very effective. It is a very effective investigative tool, and I don't think that the police could do without it now.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting argument, isn't it? Because some would say that the money spent on CCTV cameras would be better spent in actually getting police on the beat, that the deterrent factor of that is better. Where do you stand? Presumably, if you're editor of CCTV magazine, I can answer the question for you.
Right. Well, I would just answer it with some facts, though, that the amount of money that's spent on CCTV annually is a drop in the bucket, drop in the ocean compared to what's spent on policing. You could put, I think we worked out, after Big Brother published some figures some time ago, we worked out, I think it would put an extra 1 officer on the beat in each area, which was, you know, is a tiny increase in policing.
The fact is, having a human there, is that more of a deterrent than a camera?
No, not really, because, I mean, police officers will tell you that on a Friday night in a town centre, people will, you know, there can be a police officer standing there and people will still start fighting with each other. So CCTV is a great evidential tool. It's being used very effectively by the police to identify criminals. And that in itself is a crime prevention tool, because you get these criminals convicted and get them off the streets, or better yet, get some of these guys into rehab to, you know, help cure them of maybe a drug addiction.
And Nick, I mean, you did a study into this for the Home Office many years ago, before it was as prevalent as it is now. Does that stack up? Does that, Tom's argument, stack up with the evidence that you've been able to sort of gather over the last...
In part, and obviously the Home Office's own research on policing shows it's nowhere near as effective as we'd like it to be. I think my main concern is that whilst the cameras are a drop in the ocean in terms of cost, they're not washing their face. You know, given times of austerity, they're not producing as great a result as you might expect from that expenditure of money.
And in terms of what the results specifically?
Well, there's a confirmation bias. We see things apparently working and then persuade ourselves they're working, but if the Home Office's own research showed that often the cameras don't work or can't be seen to work, as it were, can't be shown to work.
And Emma, civil liberties, you know, the age-old argument, you know, why do we need this? But if you've got nothing to hide, why bother?
Well, I want some preventative tools that actually work. So, as a young woman who's recently moved to London and originally from Newcastle, I want to walk home at night in the dark or be on a night out and actually have something that's going to prevent a crime from happening in the first place. I don't like the idea of being attacked and then potentially a CCTV image is going to be used by the police. So you're talking about a drop in the ocean in terms of cost. Our research has shown that local authorities, and just local authorities spent £515 million over 3 years, which would get 4,500 police officers back onto the streets.
Well, that's a drop in the ocean compared to the number of police officers that we have on the streets already.
I don't think you can call 515 million a drop in the ocean, and 4,500 police officers, I mean, in terms of jobs and in terms of feeling safe on the streets. I think if you talk to anyone in terms of crime prevention, they all say you want...
Tom's point was it would mean just 1 or 2 extra police officers
but they can be concentrated, so you've got...
Let's just go back to the civil liberties argument, because, you know, that is something that a lot of people outside the sort of specialised knowledge of the industry would discuss, but you're not bothered by that. You're not bothered by the fact that if you live in central London, you wake up and you go to work, probably every 10 or 15 metres you are being picked up by a camera. That doesn't bother you?
No, of course it is. So, I mean, the average Londoner is caught on camera around 300 times a day, and that just seems excessive to me. I mean, every one of those cameras isn't there for crime prevention. We're missing out here on the private CCTV cameras, which make up the bulk in this country, and they're being used more and more for non-traditional methods like marketing purposes and things like that.
And Nick, just on the point of the technology, you know, is it up to scratch at the moment? Because presumably the next generation could have things like facial recognition, which when it comes to, you know, a terrorist plot or something like that, could be...
It's a business, and like all the businesses, it's producing more and more good quality stuff, but the trouble is that all adds to the cost. And I remember great claims being made for the early cameras, and now still better claims are made, so that once you've gone down that line, you are into, you know, the companies are into...
Just a fun thought from you, Nick, if I may, because we're running out of time, but, you know, do we need more cameras? Do you envisage many more cameras, or do you just envisage better cameras on the streets of Britain?
I think that we don't know how many cameras we need, because we're still involved in a great experiment in terms of using CCTV, but what we have learned, you know, in a lot of time since Nick did his research, we've learned a lot about the use of CCTV. The police are pioneering new techniques in terms of using CCTV to identify persistent criminals, and that has resulted, for example, from the London riots 2 years ago. They've identified over 3,000 people and brought them to court, based on being able to identify those people from CCTV images, and they're still catching people from that. So I don't think that, you know, anybody who's been a victim of crime will know that getting justice is a big component of feeling better about what's happened to you, about, you know, achieving closure on the situation. And I don't think that we can just say that CCTV doesn't work. I think a lot of the research that's been done has been asking perhaps the wrong questions. They've been focusing on this: does CCTV prevent crime? We know that police officers don't prevent crime, but we do know that they investigate crimes and they bring people to justice, and that makes people feel better. OK, new code of practice coming forward, so communities will have to be asked for their permission outside sort of main areas as well for that. It's time to actually switch these cameras off on you chaps, though, so thank you very much indeed for joining us. Unfortunately, the camera stays on me for a bit longer, but Nick, Tom and Emma, thank you all very much.